Why are you stuck in a life? And how to realign with God, so you have the new purpose, the new guidance. Welcome to PK John's Biblical Alignment Expert to help you find the purpose and the destiny from God. Today is episode 2. We're going to talk about the way that you can free from your life, where you stuck and where you are going to. By the end of today, you are going to learn exactly where you stuck. You're going to learn from it, and you're going to learn the exact step you are going to take so you can move forward. You can escape from the trap, from the routine, from the repetition that you are facing every day. So before we start it, let me ask you a couple questions. Why do you feel stuck, even when you are trying? Why are you feel start something, but you can't stay consistent? Why does the purpose feel clear in one day, but another day it disappears? You feel like you are in a mist. What if I tell you the problem isn't your discipline? It is your alignment. In this channel, we are going to share a lot of the biblical alignment that you learn from the Christian life, from the Bible, from the pastor. How are you going to apply into your real life by aligning yourself directly to your emotion, to the Bible, and to your action? Because most people don't lose their purpose. They just drip off from the alignment. And today, I'm going to share you exactly where that happened. Through one story in the Bible that most people overlook. The Bible is from Judge. Samson's from Judge chapter 13 to 16. That is where the Samson story taking place. Samson was born with a calling to set apart, to be chosen, to be empowered. But one question is driven. So why does someone chosen by God still end up losing everything? What is one big mistake or the series of the small misalignments he had done without notice? With the emotion, which is the first angle we are going to see from the story. What is emotion, energy, attitude Samson have in the story? In the story, Samson feel special. Of course, he was being chosen one. And Samson occasionally follow what he feels. Desire override the direction. For example, Samson want to kill the Philistine, so he just go. Samson want to marry the other religious girls, then he just go. Samson want to get drunk and sharing his secret, then he just let it go. So many things was built basic on his feeling. Samson's feeling. What's that make you think? We always have the feeling, right? We feel that we are chosen by God to become son of the Most High. As a Christian, we feel special. But we still taking our action basic on how we feel, how we want to do, and how we think is right. The key here is we think, we use our conscious brain to make a decision. This decision is not always correct, but definitely it's not always from your intuition. It's not always from your inside. The key here from Samson is Samson didn't lose his strength first. he lost control of his impulse. Angerness, disappointment, and frustration, those are the most common emotion we are facing. Laziness, careless, and not be cautious is what our attitude always facing. When we are thinking about Samson, he is careless, right? But when we are thinking about ourselves, what is our mental state is, how is our attitude is. So let's find out with these questions. How often do you act basic on your feel instead of your know? How many decisions this week were mentioned, not intentional? I mean, were emotional, not intentional. Are you led by your purpose, the destiny God has put in your heart, He really want you to do, or you are driven yourself by pressure? Try to answer those 3 questions, and then you will slowly find out your day-to-day activity is basic on your emotion or basic on your intuition. Okay, so if you don't control your energy, your emotion, your attitude, then they will control your direction. That is how this goes in your first step. Attitude is always comes first. But if taking action without the right attitude, it's going to be hard. This reminds me about the story when I begin to work in the society, find my first job, find my first full-time job, get my first car, driving to my first work. All the first things is from known, conscious. I know I need to work. I know I need to find a job. I know this, I know that. Then I know I need to learn a financial knowledge. Then I learn I need to become financial freedom. Then I learn I need to do business in order to reach that. Everything is feeling, attitude. I know I need to do this. It is driven by my time consuming in the work. I don't like to stuck in the 9-to-5 job. That is why so many things has been exposed for me to learn. But the reality, it's not going to be easy. We have been moving through the similar process, either this case or other case. But the result is very similar. We are just rinsing and repeat. Learning, try, fail. Learning, try, fail. That is most of the people with us. But here, we are going to shift our emotion back to what Bible teach us through the Samson story. Samson is taking his action through his emotion. But next time when we try to act through our emotion, what is the first step we should do? Of course, we should invite Jesus to lead us, to help us, right? That is what church teaches. But the most important thing here is, do we have time to ask? Do we have time to stay calm and wait for the response? That is hard. Even the church, the pastor, the Bible, everything we learn, teach us we need to pray, we need to devotion to find a confirmation before we take any action. But when the feeling come up, when the attitude come up, this is hard to make it through with the right practice. So here is a practical step we can take for this emotional trap or attitude trap is gratitude. Anything you come up, anything you want to do, even you invite Jesus, invite Holy Spirit to guide you. But before or after everything you encounter, always give appreciation, always give your gratitude, always say thank you for this is your purpose happened to me. Thank you for the failures. Thank you for the success. Thank you for the ideas. Thank you for everything I have been learning through. Once you have this attitude, your feeling, your emotion, your attitude will totally change. Success is not going to be lock you up for what you have to do this, have to do that. Instead, gratitude is going to be lock you up. Thank you for God, let me fail. To learn through the process, to take the challenge I see every single one. That is called attitude alignment. Alright, let's move to the step 2. God's truth. In other words, we can say this is the affirmation from the Bible, from the promise, from the anchor that you believe in your heart. In translation, here is where it goes deeper. Samson didn't just act wrong. He started thinking wrong. That is how Samson's story unfolds at the end. He lost his direction because he believed something else. He thinks something else instead of his purpose, the thing God wants him to go through. Over time, Samson gets comfortable. That is the key. Comfortable always make people lazy. Comfortable always make people careless. Comfortable always make people stop thinking. That is a very dangerous situation. But when Samson get comfortable, what happened next is he played with danger. He assumed he is still strong. He ignored the warning sign. Becomes so arrogant. I can do anything with the power. Arrogant is another thing we should be very, very, very careful. The first is laziness in a comfortable. The second is arrogant. But reflect to our real life. We sometimes, most of people, just like you and me, when we are lack of our specialty, we are not good at something. We don't have this kind of problem, right? We just have laziness. We don't like to think. But when we are good at something, we have PhD, we have master degree, we have a lot of knowledge, then we'll become, I know everything. That is something start to shift in your belief, in your thinking. When you derail, when you moving away from aligning the truth in the Bible, that is where the whole thing start to flip around. Samson lost his strength. Samson married the wrong girl. Samson sharing the wrong information. Samson play around the danger. Everything God want him to go through this, just want him to learn one lesson. Start to be arrogant, to think right. Why I choose Samson? Why I choose you to have this strength? That is in the Bible. But how about us? God wants us to be very knowledgeable. God wants us to be professional. God wants us to do something other people cannot do. What's the purpose behind it? He wants us to be arrogant, then fail, or he wants us to reach our highest potential and accomplish something we cannot imagine, only can see through his promise. prosperity, abundance, popularity, high influence people, anything that's He have in your heart, that is when God's truth kick in your heart, when you take the action. So God revealed the secret of the strength through Samson's mistake. God put Samson in this situation, so he make a mistake. If God purposely put us in one of the situation, there is always reason behind it. Nothing happened without a reason. Nothing happened without God's hand moving around our circumstances. In a scientific way to think about this belief, your brain will reinforce whatever you repeat. When you feel laid back, comfortable, laziness, this will be repeating every single day. If you like to play dangerous, arrogant, and begin to act what you think is right, then it's begin to repeat. If you repeat, it will also compromise. It will also distract, and it will also shortcut your identity and shift to something else. So the question here is, what lies have you started believing lately? Have you slowly lowered your standard? Are you still aligned who God called you to be? Think about those questions. When you work from 9 to 5, when you started in the school, when you're doing a lot of the service in the church, what is the heart you really want to do inside? Your mind, your spirit, your feeling. What is inside here? Ask yourself with those questions. Those are a very interesting point we are thinking, our belief through the Christianity. So when you don't lose your identity, when you don't drift away from what God said about you, and anchor through His word by declare what He say about you, I'm not who I have been acting like. I'm who God say I am. My purpose is still alive. I'm powerful. I'm the child of the Most High. With those beliefs, you will begin to shift your thinking. Start to be arrogant and begin to seek the way to fulfill your destiny. This reminds me another experience. When I try to immerse myself into the business, try to open an online business, I research a lot of the similar business owner. I want to be like them. I want to purchase equipment. I want to take the similar product pictures, image like them. I want to do the same description. I want to do a lot of things through what I see in their success. I feel if I follow it, I will become like them. I will have the very successful online business. But in the reality, doesn't happen this easy. All of a sudden, another supplier chain, sellers come into this industry to ruin the price, to ruin everything. Then I have to be calling out for this market. That is sadly, that I cannot continue, move on. But what I learned through this experience is God is using this management skill, this Photoshop skill, this media editing skill to help me build my own channel, my own social media. In a later day, So it happen and fail have its purpose. God has put this experience into a good use. He bring me out from ashes with experience that I can build the gospel channel He put in my heart to share to the world. Okay, last step is step 3, the most important one. Taking the action from your intuition. To translate this step, let's put into this angle. Here is the hardest part. Even when Samson knew something was wrong, he didn't stop there. He just kept running to the cliff. He just running and jump off it. The repeat cycle, ignore the warning sign, delay the correction, has become Samson's lifestyle. It's hard to change the lifestyle, doesn't it? When we are knowing our daily routine is going to bring us nowhere, away from God. It's going to bring us away from what we're supposed to do. This is hard to pull the thing back. To take the right action, to make the right decision, it's not easy. But what I learned through the biblical alignment story, experience, through the Bible, it showed me a very, very depth thinking through the science, through psychology. Our brain have 3 parts: conscious, unconscious, and the superconscious. When we decide what to eat today, when we decide what time we should get up today to work, to exercise in the morning, this is conscious. When we fall in sleep, we have dreamed, and when we got triggered by certain action, by certain event, and bring our angerness without knowing, this is unconscious. When everybody is pushing the same thing moving forward, and you follow this flow, you have no idea why you are in this group. This is called superconscious. When you understand those 3 parts of the brain through science, then you will begin to know your intuition is always come from your subconscious. Something you believe, something you act automatically. But how can we rewrite? How can we make sure our unconscious is aligned biblically, aligned with the purpose, aligned with the destiny God has put in our heart? This is a journey. Right now, I can tell you, this cannot be override in one night. This have to be go through the process of learning, study, and accept. Asking for the apologize, and find a way to replace with something else. If you're learning a lot of the spiritual realm, if you're learning a lot about the law of attraction, if you're learning a lot of the spiritual healing, about the Bible's story, there is something in common. Spiritual realm always link to your attitude, and the spiritual link is always linked back to your experience. When you are young, when you are small, when you are a little kid, or your unconscious mind, through the energy that you don't even know about. That is a spiritual realm. We have to spend this area in other episode. But long story short, if you know how to rewrite your unconscious mind, if you know how to rewrite your belief, your intuition is going to be fluent throughout your heart, your brain. you will notice some inspiration in 1 second. Then you will take the action right away. That is how the intuition kick in the step 3. Taking a massive action because one intuition. Taking a massive action because one inspiration, the calling. So when you can really breaking down the way to rewrite your unconscious and have God to talk to you through intuition, you will realize your life is so light and easy. Just like the Bible says, my yoke is light and easy. If you follow God's guidance, follow His intuition He has put in your heart, nothing is impossible for you to overcome, to get out from the cycle of your life, repetition. Get out from the trap where you're stuck and moving forward with the momentum. Once you build up your momentum through the action, everything will begin to flow, just like the blessing God has put in my life. I cannot imagine if I don't do this podcast, I don't do this YouTube channel, I don't do this gospel sharing. I have no idea where my mind is going to be flow to where. Maybe I'm still trying the new business model. Maybe I'm still trying to figure something out for my financial freedom. Maybe I'm still stuck in my conscious level. But right now, I'm sinking down to the unconscious. I'm being followed through my gut to share my experience, to share my story, to share my knowledge through the biblical alignment I've been learning. 3 steps that is easy to share, but it's hard to exercise, to practice. Here is a practical action. We can begin with the small things. Start small, one decision, one correction, and one step at a time. Just like a Samson. At the end, Samson come back to God and pray, God, strengthen me one more time. Even after failure, purpose was never disappear. So here is my challenge to you. What emotion keep you trapped in this repetition? What promise from the Bible that you can remember from your Sunday school, from your pastor message, that you can remind what God say about you? Replace the first word with I am powerful. I am prosper. I am the Most High, the child of the Most High. Replace it with real affirmation. Then the third one is what the action God put in your heart after you listen to this podcast. God wants you to take action. The first step He wants you to do. Think about it with those 3 challenges I'm giving you today. So where are you right now? Where is your emotional status right now? Where is your believing right now? And what is the action you try to avoid right now? If you decide to face them, things will begin to change. This is what I call biblical alignment. Okay, here's the most important action I want you to do right now. Type I'm ready at the comment below to make your declaration that you are ready to align once again with God. And I also wrote the ebook about the biblical alignment. It's an ebook free to download. If you see the link below, just click the link and download the ebook that I share great information in there. How I use this biblical alignment to align myself back to God's destiny He had prepared for me. How I use biblical alignment to follow the purpose. How I use biblical alignment to anchor my belief into His promise and take a massive action to create this gospel channel in my spare of time. Okay, so don't forget, if this podcast, if this video is helping you, make sure you click like, share, and subscribe, so you will not miss the next podcast. The next video is coming up. My name is PK John. Thank you for listening for this podcast. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.